What do we know about the SEC player pool? Michigan has a new quarterback. USC has a new wide receiver. And we're going to do a 2025 C2C startup draft. Campus2Canton is live right now. Just yours truly, Felix, Sharpe, and Matt Bruening for Campus2Canton.com tonight. If you want to support what it is that we're doing, pushing college fantasy football to the format, pushing the Campus2Canton format to the forefront, then go ahead and like this video. You know, we've never got, 2 million likes on a video. So let's get this video to 2 million likes. And Matthew, I was looking at our podcast feed today. The last 5-star rate and review that we had was from August of this year, and it was about Back to Devin. So I want to get a 5-star rate and review. Tell us why you love Campus2Canton Live. We're not doing that competition thing that we did earlier in the year, but I would like to get a 5-star rate and review. If you want to help us out, you can go to Home Field Apparel, use promo code Campus2Canton for 15% off, not 50, 15% off your first purchase. And if you are playing player props on Underdog, you can use our promo code C2C for a deposit match of up to $250. Matthew, one of the better games this weekend is Michigan and USC, and it's so weird to see these two teams play in the regular season. I heard on Cover 3, I believe, earlier this week that they've only played 11 times overall. I remember one of those matchups was USC's Dwayne Jarrett versus Michigan's Braylon Edwards in the Rose Bowl. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that game, 2005-ish, somewhere around there. But Matthew, Michigan is starting Alex Orji, the expected starter really to come into the season. What do you make of Michigan moving from Davis Warren to the athletic freak Alex Orji?
I mean, in a way, it makes sense. And I was technically old enough. I don't remember that game, but yes, I was old enough to, I guess, remember it had I watched it. To me, it makes sense. I mean, I feel like all through spring and everything else, we had kind of been led to believe Alex Orji was going to be the guy. And then whatever happened in the fall camp that kind of led Warren to take over that job. He obviously ended up getting the starting job and was just not good. I mean, the Michigan offensive line is not what it used to be. So having a pocket passing quarterback back there, I don't think works for them. They don't have any weapons really for, I think, a pocket passing quarterback either. The run game has not been good outside of Khalil Mullings. So I think at least in moving to a player like Alex Orji, you give yourself a chance to just get some explosive plays, even if it's just from him. My biggest fear with this game is, I mean, you said it's one of the better games. I think this could end up being like a blowout in USC's favor. If that defense plays the way that they have so far this season, I mean, they could just load the box. I don't think you have to worry about Alex Orji beating you in the passing game. And from what I've seen so far early on this year, and again, a lot of this is going to be based on the Texas game. That's the game I've watched the entire game of Michigan game this year was Michigan versus Texas. He did not look that good running the ball. And this USC defense looks much different than what we've seen the past couple of years after being run by Alex Grinch. They're actually making tackles. They seem to have more speed. They're more athletic. I would be concerned about this becoming such a kind of offense that's just a rushing attack because Alex Orji can't pass the ball, that's how USC pulls away with it. So I'm excited for the game. I do think it's because, I mean, I feel like every time we say this, it ends up being a really good weekend, but I don't see a lot of great games on the schedule this weekend. So it is kind of like the highlight matchup. But I mean, if Orji can't get something going through the air, I think this could be a very one-sided game. You are muted, good sir.
Michigan from here on out is probably going to play, a time of possession game. I mean, they have to, right? I mean, because they don't want to have an up-tempo, high-scoring affair because they can't really score. So you got to keep this ball on the ground because Alex Orji can't throw. I think that could help the running game. I've always mentioned about how quarterbacks being utilized in the running game gives you plus numbers where you are able to match up head on on the offensive line with your running back, whoever you got in the backfield, to get plus numbers in your blocking scheme. And Alex Orji is built he's built like Kyron Drones, and he can be used like a fullback. So we saw Michigan in that second half against Penn State. They just kept the ball on the ground. I think that's what we look for in Michigan moving forward, where they just keep the ball on the ground, and instead of handing the ball to Blake Corum, they just hand it to Alex Orji. Alex Orji could be the leading rusher for this team if you're going to be running a whole lot of designed quarterback runs. I think that's how they win. We know that he can't throw the ball, or at least he hasn't developed to this point. They don't have any dynamic weapons on the outside of Colston Loveland, and I think he might be injured right now. So what do? You more or less run some version of quarterback sweep and quarterback dive back and forth and try to keep the ball out of USC's possession. That's how I would win. That's how I would try to win if I was, Sharon Moore developing a game plan for this Michigan team. It's not going to be him throwing the ball. He's not going to go toe-to-toe with Miller Moss. But this game is at home. I didn't miss that, right? It is in Michigan. Michigan gets Texas and USC at home. Not even going to make the playoff. But I don't know. That's how I would game plan, is to be honest with you, just run them into the back of the line of scrimmage and try to get that forward push, get your offensive linemen on their toes and win 3-4 yards at a time, get to third and short and convert and keep drives moving.
I mean, I don't disagree with that being the way Michigan probably should play it and the way that they could win the game. They still are ranked as like a top, they're still ranked as like a top 12 offensive line, at least in run blocking. I just do not think it's the same kind of offensive line we've seen over the past couple of years. They lost a lot on that offensive line this past year. I don't think it's as good. I mean, Khalil Mullings has looked amazing, but I guess we'll see. I think it's going to be very hard for them to do much if Alex Orji. I mean, what did he have, like 4 passes last week? I know one of them was for a touchdown, but it was like 4 passes. Like, if he's going to go out there, I know J.J. McCarthy only at times threw it like 10 times in a game, and I'm not the biggest J.J. McCarthy fan in the world, but J.J. McCarthy could make practically every throw on the field. So, like, defenses had to be prepared for that. I don't think defenses have to be prepared for Alex Orji as a passer. And so I think that is going to end up giving USC
they would have to prove it to me.
Advantage.
If I was a defensive coordinator, I would make Alex Orji prove it to me. We're putting 8, 9 in the box. I'm doing 1 high safeties. I'm going man up on your wide receivers. I do not care. Like, I'm going to see if you can actually do it. Now, we're playing off coverage so the ball doesn't go behind our heads. But Michigan, you're going to have to prove it to me. And I'm not going to let you get into, 2nd and 4 situations. That's the thing. If you can get Michigan into 2nd and 11, get them behind the chains, that's going to be it. First down is going to be so important for this Michigan team when they can't pass the ball. All right,
I want to correct myself real quick. I'm sorry. Michigan's offensive line and run blocking is actually ranked 24th. I said top 12. They're 24th. So still top, 30 decent in the nation. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and it's over for Donovan Edwards. Like last week, it's going to be Khalil Mullings. And I got a lot of Khalil Mullings in best ball. I got a lot of Khalil Mullings in best ball, former linebacker there. The other news we had break today, Matthew, is that Jerome Myles from Corner Canyon, school of Zach Wilson, Devin Brown, Jackson Dart, he has committed, the wide receiver has committed to USC, 6'2", 210. This dude has a 10.3 600-meter dash time under his belt. I thought the 10.4s that we see are fast. He has a 10.36 at 6'2", 210 pounds. That's actually the fastest time in state history. But I looked at his track times. It seems like 10.56, 10.57 is really his average. He must have had some wind on those days. Still plenty fast, though, for 6'2", 210. A 0.98 star index score, according to Campus2Canton.com. His comps include Perry Thompson, Larry Fitzgerald, Justin Watson, Alec Pierce, Kevin White. If you remember Kevin White from the Bears in West Virginia. But this dude, he tore his ACL on August 30th, so he's not even playing like the rest of the season What are your thoughts on Jerome Myles coming out of Corner Canyon?
He tore his ACL this year, August 30th? There's no way.
Yeah. Hold on. Jerome Myles' season is over. Now you're making me fact check myself right here.
I mean, I'm sorry. I honestly did not realize that because he had the massive game week 1 for Corner Canyon where they beat one of the top high schools in the nation. He had like 3 touchdowns. You might be right. I may have just missed that. I honestly did not realize that, but I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. I currently have him ranked as my number 2 wide receiver in the class. Massive catch radius. I think he does a really good job of going up and getting the ball. He does a really good job of extending his hands away from his body to avoid
his senior
catches.
campaign at Utah's Corner Canyon
That sucks.
High School ended on August 30th when Myles suffered a season-ending ACL injury, prompting the 6'3", 220-pound prospect, they got him at 6'3", 220, to push up his originally scheduled August 30th commitment ceremony.
Oh, I guess that's why he pushed it. Yeah, because it was supposed to be in like September or something like. Trying
to cash that check, you're like, oh, got this torn ACL. I got to go ahead and sign.
No, I mean, like I said, yeah. Like I said, my bad. I must have missed that news, but yeah, really strong hands. I think what was interesting too in that game, and I wish I could remember who it was they played. This is in week 1 of the season. They played one of the better high schools in the nation. He did a really good job blocking as well. Very physical blocker. Like I think USC's getting an incredible wide receiver talent. I guess the main issue is going to be like, what does that wide receiver room look like next year? Because, I mean, you know Zachariah Branch is coming back. I'd imagine, Jacoby Lane still has 3 years left of eligibility, so I would imagine he's coming back. I don't think any of these guys are doing well enough to go to the Jacoby Lane can't go to the NFL anyways. But then was it Mekhi Lemon still there?
Deuce Robinson's still there. Deuce Robinson might be still there. I want Deuce Robinson to go back to Arizona. Go back to his home state of Arizona and play for Arizona and replace Teteroa McMillan as the 1A in that system. But that's neither here nor there. Go ahead.
So, like, I imagine because of the talent, he's going to be fine and not end up as a year 1-0. But, like, that room is so loaded. Like, that's kind of my concern. Obviously, I don't know that I had hoped he would go to Utah, but he played with Isaac Wilson.
Yeah, he played.
Named as our freshman of the week. At Corner Canyon. I think if he'd have gone to Utah, he'd have stepped in immediately because Brant Keithy's gone after this year, no matter what. Would have likely stepped in and been like the number 1 in that offense. And it'd have been fun to see him ball out as a true freshman. I don't know that we see that at USC, but I think he's good enough that he's going to avoid at least being a year 1-0. And I mean, Lincoln Riley just gets what I think is going to be an absolute stud in that class next year at wide receiver.
So Jerrion Dickey went into camp as a freshman with like a meniscus injury.
Yeah.
This is August 30th. He should be fully recovered by the time fall camp. I would suspect that he doesn't do anything in the spring. That sucks. And then he's going to go into fall camp. Like, would you be hesitant to take this dude with a top, 8 pick next year, given that he has the ACL injury? I'm not drafting injured players. I just, especially a freshman.
That's actually a really good question because I'm trying to think of who I would take over him. I mean, we know this, or we expect it to be a very good quarterback class. So that will put, I think, a couple of those guys in there. I mean, you have Jamie French, who I think is really good. Jacorian Moore, who's going to Oklahoma. Who else I think is up there? Khalid Lockett, who's going to Texas. Man, who did actually Quincy Porter going to Ohio State. I actually like I think it's John Anthony Hall who's going to Stanford. So like there's a decent amount of wide receivers up there that maybe you wouldn't get.
I'm trying to think of some players who went into college, some highly rated prospects who went into college with an ACL injury. And I'm thinking of your Ohio State, but wasn't it Master Teague? Master Teague was like a 5-star, and then he tore his ACL and then tore his ACL his freshman year. He was a high 4-star. I mean, Myles isn't a 5-star. Myles is a 4-star.
Oh,
so Myles is a 4-star. Right. But I'm just saying, like, these highly rated recruits who have some sort of injury. I mean, even my boy Eli Raridan tore his ACL again his freshman year. I'm just not. There's going to be some player, either a freshman or an upperclassman that's in the player pool that I could take over Jerome Myles, even though he has a .98 star index score. That's
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's going to end up being a first-round pick because someone will take him. But I get what you're saying and avoiding take because, again, not only is he injured player, what you're saying about him missing probably all the spring is fair. So he's going into fall camp, and then with that loaded wide receiver room, and he's probably going to be one of those guys we talk about next year who has a realistic shot of becoming a year 1-0.
Yeah. When we were thinking of the theme, or when I was thinking of the theme for tonight's show, it's what do we feel confident about, and let's break it down by conference, starting here with the SEC. Because Matthew, last week after week 2. I think just about every college football show, college fantasy football show, was doing some sort of panic meter type content, because there's very few players that are performing to expectations. And that's the thing about college football, is the player pool changes every single year. It's like a whole different landscape. It's a whole new game every time you look up, or every single season, as opposed to the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, those are going to be the names at the top of fantasy lists for the next 3 to 5 years. In college football, you take out a whole class of players, and then the landscape changes entirely from year to year. So what do we know? We're starting with the SEC. Matthew, you put yours on the show sheet. I wanted to be surprised by yours. So,
my bad.
Or surprised by each other. So why don't you start, and we'll just go back and forth here for what you feel like super confident about that you absolutely know about the SEC. And again, if you're tuning in for the first time, we're talking about the player pool here. This is a fantasy show, so all these are probably going to be player specific. So go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, so just for everyone who's listening in, I tried to do one on every team. There's one team I just could not think of something. I'll try and think of it while we're talking here. And I went in order of the current standings of the SEC. So I'm starting with Georgia. From what I've seen for the first 3 weeks, I think Nate Frazier is the best running back on Georgia's roster, not named Trevor Etienne. He has been really good. Which makes me feel good. I'm not gonna lie, because I said this in our What We Think We Know show, you, me, and Moxley. I wasn't expecting him to look this good. I think obviously the injury to Roderick Robinson has helped boost him up, but I would not be surprised if he's not the 1A or 1B next year with Branson or Roderick moving forward. I think they could even use him more in the receiving game if they want to. Obviously, could be a very interesting team next year with Carson Beck going into the NFL. I just can't be certain. Pretty sure he would go into the NFL after the season. So it could go back to more of a run-heavy offense, and I think Nate Frazier could be a really, really good fantasy asset, not just the rest of this season, but next year as well.
I had a Nate Frazier one too, and my Nate Frazier one is that he is absolutely a first-round C2C startup pick in 2025. Remember, Nate Frazier was supposed to be the scat back. He was supposed to be like the pass catcher dude. The dude is already up to 210 pounds. He's running between the tackles, and he's super dangerous in open space. I think after we lose what we expect to be the 2024 running back class, the only player that I have ahead of Nate Frazier is Justice Haynes. And that could be flipped, whereas Nate Frazier going into 2025 is the number 1 running back in my rankings. And I was like, is this right? No, it's absolutely right, because there's a lot of, if I went through the names, there's a lot of guys who are going to the 2024 class. But going into 2025, there's a possibility, talking about the landscape changing, Nate Frazier going from freshman who's scat back to number 1 running back, in the rankings. That's what we're talking about right there. So I've got, as far as what I know, Nate Frazier is 100% going to be a first round startup pick in 2025 in C2C drafts. Do you disagree?
I guess we're about to find out here
we're gonna find out
at the end of the show, but off the top of my head, I'd probably agree. I'm trying to think of, some of the players I would put in the first round. You want the Georgia running back, so I would probably agree with you. But I guess, we'll have a definitive answer for you here toward the end of the show.
You got any more Georgia ones? I'll just throw up my other Georgia one.
No, I just did one per team, so.
I don't need to elaborate on this. It was there when I was doing this, there were so few things that I felt 100% confident on. I thought I was going to have a list of 20. I don't have a list of 20.
Yeah.
Anyway, but one of those things is Carson Beck is he's a top 5 pick. We've talked about Carson Beck going into last offseason. I was high on him then. I was mocked, ridiculed, teased. abused for all of that his first year as a starter. He's going to be locked in as a top 5 pick. I don't even know that that's not a hot take. That's just, it's going to happen. So,
yeah.
Go ahead. Give me another one of yours.
So moving over to LSU, I think that Caden Durham is going to force Caleb Jackson to the portal by the end of the season. To me, he looked really good in that South Carolina game. I was going back and looking at some of the stats. Do you want to guess? And I get Caleb Jackson added whatever, all the weight this offseason and everything. But over his last year, which again, I know he didn't play, he did not play a ton last year. He only had, I had it written down somewhere. So he had only taken 52 rushing attempts, or he has 52 rushing attempts through his first 2 years in college. I want to guess how many explosive runs Caleb Jackson has.
So probably like 0. I don't know.
He has 6. Caden Durham had 4 last week.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I think he fits that offense so much better. Again, I don't know if it's just because of the weight game. I was not as big a Caleb Jackson guy as a lot of other people were here. I thought he was good. I did not think he was that great. Be honest, I didn't think Caden Durham was going to be that good either. But from what I saw in that game, he looked like the best back. I would not be surprised if they don't lean on him the rest of this season, and then that forces Caleb Jackson in the portal. Probably a little bit of a hot take on that because I could see him coming back and those two being like a 2-headed monster backfield. But I mean, I think to me, Durham looked like the best player out of that running back room.
I had a Caleb Jackson one. Well, Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson one, and Caleb Jackson is done being relevant at LSU. I think that he could. So that's the thing I know for certain. He could be done being relevant like at all because I think that he should and he probably will transfer after this year, given the fact that Caden Durham's probably going to go into 2025 as the number 1 back. I don't know if Josh Williams has any more eligibility, even assuming that he doesn't. Caleb Jackson probably wants the opportunity to be the guy. Now you have this ascendant talent. I remember on the freshman ranking show, I want to say that I compared Caden Durham to Javid Best. And it's funny because Austin on Back to Debbie today compared him to Devin Achane. So we're both like we're seeing to me, Achane and Best are very similar, smaller speed backs, and they're very similar players. Caden Durham seems a little bit thicker than I expected him to be in his freshman season. Man, I love big backs. I love explosive players. That's Caleb Jackson, but it's not happening at LSU. It's not it's not happening at LSU. They've kind of found their guy. Can I run something by you?
Yeah.
And I would like comments on this too. I'm going to be vulnerable here, Matthew. I'm going to be vulnerable here. I'm sincere. And this is embarrassing. Mike Valerie offered me this week, or was it this week or last week? He offered me a trade.
Yeah.
His Caleb Jackson for my 2nd round supplemental pick. I countered the offer thinking that I had offered him my 3rd round supplemental pick. I went to do my waiver wire pickups for that league this morning or yesterday, whenever it was, and I had countered him my 1st round supplemental pick. Now was that so? It really pissed me off, and of course he accepted it because that's Mike.
Immediately.
What's funny to me is that you got 2 types of folks. There's Mike, and then there's Nick. I'd done something similar to Nick where I offered a trade where I gave him something and got nothing in return. He called me. He was like, "Hey, I don't think you meant to. Did you? I don't think. Was there something else here? I don't think you want me to accept this." And it's funny that happened like, I don't know, like 48 hours apart from each other. What would you do in this situation? To me, it's like I'm just going to quit all of my C2C leagues and never play Campus2Canton again.
I mean, number one, it really sounds like a user error on your end. The fact that
I said that I led off with that.
But if it were me, had you reached out to me and said, "Hey, this is what I actually meant to do,"
I'm not doing that.
Then I would have been like, "All right, let's reverse it. We'll take care of it," because I'll want to be a good sport about it and all that other stuff. Mike's not going to do that because Mike's not a good sport. Mike cheats every chance he gets, so he's going to keep the first round pick. And yeah, I mean, at that point,
it's funny because I've had multiple issues with sending the wrong trade or not seeing the trade correctly on Fantrax. It's just it, and the funny thing is like I know how to use it, but I'm still using it wrong. So for people who like don't know how to use it, it's probably impossible. It's probably impossible. Okay. But it's funny to me that within like 48 hours, I had Nick, one version. Like Nick represents a whole spectrum of person, and then Mike represents a whole spectrum, a different spectrum of person. All right, let's go on here. Let's go. What do you got next as far as what you're confident, what you know in the SEC?
So keeping with the transfer portal, I think with Texas A&M, I think Marcel Reed forces Connor Wigman to the transfer portal. Talked a lot about how
I didn't watch that game. So
I might be getting a little ahead of myself. I'll say that because Florida is not a great team, and their defense has made a lot. I mean, Cam Ward had like what felt like an hour in the pocket when Miami played them. What was that, week 1? So Marcel Reed had time. Don't get me wrong, but from a rushing point. And even from a passing point, like I saw things out of Marcel Reed I've barely seen out of Connor Wigman. And when Colin Klein came from Kansas State to this offense, I talked a lot about how like I thought that's what they were going to use Wigman as. They were going to use because he's more of an athlete than I think people give him credit for. I thought they were going to use him a little bit as a rusher, and they have not. And they did that with Marcel Reed. I think he fits this offense. I mean, they didn't say on the broadcast exactly what was wrong with Connor Wigman, but that he had to get his shoulder shot up. He was going to try and play in that game. And then the coaching staff decided not to play him. And like you could see he was visibly upset when oh man, what's his name? Why am I forgetting head coach's name? Mike Elko. When Elko told Wigman he wasn't playing, and then for Reed to go out there and do that, I mean, look, Elko has no connections to Wigman, nothing. Right. I mean, I think Reed fits this offense. I would not be surprised if whether it's Wigman gets the job back and just plays bad and they put Reed back in, or Reed just holds on to this job. I think Wigman hits the portal at the end of this year and goes somewhere else.
I'm surprised that you have a Texas A&M statement here because there's nothing that I feel confident about from like a C2C CFF perspective on Texas A&M that I can think of. I will say this, however, since I'm airing grievances apparently on this show, I wrote Marcel Reed's profile for the freshman guide, and one of my footnotes, I like to just get into like just minutia, I guess, with players, and one of my footnotes was omitted from Marcel Reed's profile. So I'm going to read it right here because I guess Kirk Herbstreit's kids went to that same high school that Marcel Reed. So he knows Marcel Reed because his kids go to that school in Nashville. That school, this is the footnote, where his high school, Montgomery Bell Academy. Montgomery Bell Academy is a private school with a $60 million endowment. Notable alumni include Thomas Schulman, author of Dead Poets Society, 2012 Cy Young Award winner R.A. Dickey, Jacob M. Dickinson, the United States Secretary of War under President William Howard Taft, and late sports journalist Grantland Rice, the namesake for Bill Simmons and ESPN's now defunct joint venture and sports pop culture blog Grantland. That got cut. Austin cut that. He was like, well, nobody cares. It's interesting stuff. And Matthew's not in agreement.
It is. I mean, hey, I did the same thing for a lot of my players. I put all that stuff in there, all the stuff at the beginning. I like to introduce the people to the player so I get to know them a little bit, and then I write what I think about their game, and it always gets cut. It always ends up with like, here's the stats, here's what we think of player, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
I just think little nuggets like that are interesting.
I agree.
And, I'm not going to include it in the body of the text. It was a footnote. It was a footnote. You could have put it in little text at the bottom of the page, but it got deleted. All right, give us another one of your or you want to? How about I start this time?
Yeah. Okay, go.
I know this. I know that Jalen Milroe is an NFL athlete. I don't know whether he's an NFL passer, but I just want to give hats off to Kalen DeBoer because some of the designed run, like they're doing what's easy for Jalen Milroe. I mean, they have some great design runs. It reminds me of how they run Lamar Jackson. And I don't take it for granted that a coach is going to use a player with how they're best utilized. We didn't see that from Billy Napier with Anthony Richardson. I don't think we even saw it with Bill O'Brien and Jalen Milroe. Like with Kalen DeBoer, they'll get the running back and they'll have a tight end pull to be the lead blocker for Milroe, it's a designed run. Like I've just been really impressed with some of the designed runs, and I've been really impressed with Milroe. Like there's a reason why Ryan Williams is averaging nearly 30 yards per catch. It's because if you play Alabama, what are you going to do? Are you going to drop too high, or are you going to play the run? No, you damn near have to play the run because they've got two running backs that are averaging over 8. Jam Miller is averaging like 9.1 yards per carry. Justice Haynes is right behind him at like 8.7. And then you've got Milroe. I mean, you have to stop the run against him. So hats off to Kalen DeBoer. Jalen Milroe, absolutely an NFL athlete. I don't know if he's an NFL passer, but I don't know. Like I'm still trying to figure out, is that going to matter for his projection to the NFL, to the next level? I think that he's going to end up being taken in that Andy Dalton, Drew Brees, Jalen Hurts range. All of those guys were taken at the beginning of the second round and were dynamic players. I think that that's where Jalen Milroe ends up being taken. And I tell you what, man, there's a chance that he should still be like the number one overall pick, like in dynasty rookie drafts, if he goes that high, because we're thinking if it's obviously super flex, we're thinking of Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders go ahead of him, Carson Beck go ahead of him. I don't know, Quinn Ewers, you can allege that he's going to go ahead of him. Like, I think I would rather take the risk on Jalen Milroe if he's like the 33rd or 34th or 35th pick or something like that than any of those guys. I love the season that Jalen Milroe is having. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Because Kalen DeBoer's offense this year looks so much different than how he used Michael Penix Jr. last year. But it's supposed to look different. When you have players of different skill sets, your offense should look different. But not every coach does that, and Kalen DeBoer has done it this year. Hats off to him. So one thing I know is that Jalen Milroe, NFL athlete.
I don't disagree on my issue with Milroe would be, and taking him first in dynasty drafts, would be where he gets drafted to. Because I think you have to have a coach that's willing to use him the correct way. I think that's what's worked out for Jalen Hurts, because that's actually one of the players he comps to in our our prospect database. And I think that is a fair comp. Now, Hurts showed us a different side of him as a passer with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma.
With Lincoln Riley, not before that. Though.
Exactly. That's what I was going to bring up, because Lincoln Riley, I think, does a very good job of scheming a lot of players open. And we have not quite seen that kind of passing from Jalen Hurts at the NFL level. So I do want this. That's why I used him as the example there. So it would depend on where he goes, because if he goes to a team that I don't think will use Milroe the correct way, I'd be hesitant to draft him that high, because I think if Nuss goes in the first round, if Beck goes in the first round, and they go to a team that will allow them passing volume, I would rather take the safer option, because I could see Beck being Baker Mayfield, who we've seen has been a top 10 quarterback multiple times because of the passing touchdowns. So that's kind of where it would depend on where Milroe goes for me before I would take him number one overall. My Alabama one is that Ryan Williams is already the best wide receiver on Alabama, and I agree with what Austin said at the beginning of the year. I think it was on Campus Live. It may have been on this show, that he will finish with the most receiving yards this season. I mean, I know that a lot of people expected it to be Jeremy Bernard because he followed Kalen DeBoer over here. But I went back and was watching a lot of the Isaiah Bond stuff from last year with Jalen Milroe, and he played a little bit more in the slot. I believe it was like a 51 to like 47% snap share in the slot. And Jeremy Bernard has been in the slot a little bit more this year than he has been out wide. But all of Isaiah Bond's big plays came when he was lined up outside, where Ryan Williams is almost exclusively lined up. And I feel like a lot of that is what you were just saying about the defense with the way they play Jalen Milroe. And we know he's looking for that deep ball. And
he's looking for that one-on-one coverage, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now granted, Jeremy Bernard's ADOT is not much worse than Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is sitting at 17.3 right now. Jeremy Bernard's sitting at like a 13.8. So, like, it's not that big of a difference. But Ryan Williams is like, that's who he's going to down the field. And I think from what I've been looking at, I only went back and watched the USF game and then their game. What was the other one? Not the game
Wisconsin?
They played last week. No, I didn't get a chance to watch that one. Whoever they played in week 1, I forgot who it was now off the top of my head. They rolled them.
I think it was Tennessee Tech or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. It was a bad team. That's what, like, it seems like he's looking specifically for Ryan, and Jeremy Bernard is being used more in the short area. I think Ryan Williams is going to end up just destroying teams deep this year. I think he's by far the best wide receiver this year. I think Jeremy Bernard, I mean, DA in the chat is saying Bernard has been underperforming. I think he's going to continue being underwhelming all season long.
Yeah, I had a Ryan Williams too, and my Ryan Williams is that he is a top 3 C2C startup pick in 2025. He's dwarfing second leading receiver Jeremy Bernard by over 100 yards. I think he has close to 300, and I think Jeremy Bernard has like 125 or something like that, averaging 28.5 yards per catch. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to defend Alabama when you can't stop the run, so you have to commit sources to it. You got Ryan Williams on the outside with one-on-one. It's such a demoralizing way to beat, defenses. Like, you can't stop the run. You commit resources to the run. They throw it over your head after you commit resources to the run. So, I mean, I think, and we'll see because we're going to do a startup draft. I think Ryan Williams is one of the top 3 picks going into 2025. So, I mean, that's my Ryan Williams. Speaking of Alabama, I wanted to have a firm stance on the backfield between Jam Miller and Justice Haynes. But, man, I can't say anything confidently about them. I made the comparison to Jahmyr Gibbs when I wrote Justice Haynes' profile. It was not that they're similar style players, but that some of the things that they did reminded me of each other, including like contact balance and first step burst. But Jahmyr Gibbs damn near took his first kickoff return against UCF back for a touchdown. Justice Haynes, we have not seen that. Yes, he had that 100-yard game against the 4-carry 100-yard game to begin the season, but we haven't seen him like take over yet. And with Gibbs, I mean, it was apparent from the get-go that he was that dude. Remember sharing the backfield with Jordan Mason. By the way, give Jeff Collins some credit.
Yeah. He
recruited and developed 2 of the best running backs in the NFL right now. I mean, I don't think it's not hyperbole to say that Jordan Mason is one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. And Jahmyr Gibbs is definitely up there. And he recruited both of them to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
I don't even know where Jeff Collins is right now. I have no idea where Jeff Collins is coaching, throwing all those wheel routes to Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. There's nobody, including Ben Johnson, that has used Jahmyr Gibbs like that way, like as a vertical threat out of the backfield. It's such a weird thing to say, how running back can be a deep threat out of the backfield. But you go watch some Georgia Tech games, Jahmyr Gibbs was a deep threat out of the backfield. Getting sidetracked here, but I wanted to say something definitive about the backfield between those two. But I don't feel 100% confident about my evaluation on either of those players. I don't know how you feel.
Jam Miller has 10 more carries than Justice Haynes, and what worries me is they're getting other people involved. I mean, Richard Young already has 9 carries on the season. Daniel Hill has 13, and I know some of that came in the blowout, but like typically we've seen Kalen DeBoer commit to a guy, and he has not done that yet outside of Milroe, who leads the team in carries. So like that's kind of my biggest concern from the running back room right now.
Why don't you give us another one of yours? I'm running out.
So my next one, Missouri, after what I saw out of Luther Burden in that game against Boston College and Tetaroa's, I don't want to say necessarily his struggles, because I don't think he's necessarily struggling. He's not playing great. I think Luther Burden is going to be the top wide receiver drafted this year. And I've been Evan Stewart, wide receiver 1. I actually think I'd moved recently Tetaroa over Luther Burden and then him as 3. But what I've seen out of him so far in this Missouri team, I think he's going to end up being one of the top receivers in the SEC with what he's been doing already this year. I think Missouri is going to be a really good team, possibly playoff bound, and he's going to be a top wide receiver drafted.
It's going to be Tetaroa McMillan. It's going to be Tetaroa McMillan. Tetaroa McMillan against they just played, was it Texas State? Who did they just play?
No, they just played like they just got beat by Kansas State, but they played like Northern Arizona. He did nothing against them either. Like
hold on. I was going to say, so Tetaroa McMillan had like 113 yards receiving in like the first quarter and a half. And then he was headed towards another one of those 300-yard games in that Kansas State game, and then cooled way off. But it was like, it's about to be another one of those games. I still got Tetaroa McMillan as a number 1 wide receiver. Just easier to throw to. Just easier to get the NFL is going to prioritize an outside boundary wide receiver over a slot wide receiver. That's like comparing like a left tackle and a guard. Like even if both of them are performing at their peak, the left tackle is more valuable than the guard. A boundary wide receiver more valuable than a slot wide receiver. So I think that Tetaroa McMillan is going to be the number 1 receiver drafted. All right. I'm surprised we didn't get to Florida yet. I know for a fact that Billy Napier will not be Florida's head coach in 2025. What I don't know is where DJ Lagway is going to play. It's so funny because we said it tongue in cheek, but it was actually in the offseason, we were like, man, DJ Lagway is going to have a great season, but where's he going to play in 2025 after Billy Napier gets fired? We have no idea. If he wants to be developed, I don't know that you're going to just let some athletic director who hires a head coach make the decision on who develops you for the NFL. So I don't think that DJ Lagway is going to be playing at Florida in 2025, and I know that Billy Napier is not going to be coaching there. I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, I have Florida down at the bottom because they are at the bottom of the SEC conference, but mine is fairly similar to that. I have on here that I'm fairly certain it will be a completely different team next year. New head coach, new quarterback.
I've been calling him last year head coach Billy Napier since like January. So.
I mean, I think everybody at this point, I mean, we've literally been saying it since the moment he got hired. That was like, this was a bad idea. Right. Chris always calls him Sunbelt Billy. We said from the beginning this was not going to work out. But Lagway, I could have seen staying, but at this point, I think he's gone because Florida just has nothing. He's been so bad at recruiting. Like, I would be very surprised to see someone like Lagway stay with that team because he's not, I would assume, unless you bring in, I mean, I'm trying to think of even what coach you could bring. I know that there's rumors of like Lane Kiffin. Like, I don't think that. I have no idea who they would bring in that could turn Florida around in a year. So I think Lagway's out the door as well and going somewhere to be I mean, would it be? Look, USC was in on him right before he decided. Yeah, right around signing day. They tried to flip him.
Moss have eligibility left?
Yeah, but you're taking TJ Lagway over Miller Moss pretty easily, I think, if you're Lincoln Riley.
No, not if they have this. Not if they beat Michigan and they beat LSU. No, you're not.
I think you are. Nah, you're with your upside of DJ Lagway. I think you're taking him.
I don't think that he just lets go of Miller Moss. Miller Moss seems like one of those guys that coaches love. Stuck around, didn't transfer.
Oh, trust me, that's all they talked about in that game. They talked about during the broadcast. Didn't transfer. Look at all these other kids entering the transfer board, like old white guys hating on all these kids entering the transfer portal.
That's right. Should we be calling Billy Napier last game head coach? Billy Napier.
I mean, I guess I said he'd probably be fired around a week.
They got Mississippi
Week
State at
nah, they'll
State.
beat Mississippi State's bad. They'll beat Mississippi State.
If they lose to Mississippi State, you might
He's
need
probably
to call
fired.
him last
No,
day
yeah,
head
he's
coach.
fired. If they lose to Mississippi State, he's fired.
We've been really right on some of the coaching hires. Josh Gaddis, offensive coordinator for Miami, were like, well, that's going to be terrible. Billy Napier, Florida, like, that's going to be terrible. And Kirk Cignetti, we said Kirk Cignetti at Indiana would be good. And I didn't think it was going to be good this quickly. But, yeah, Kirk Cignetti at Indiana. Going to be good. I shouldn't say we said that because Chris Moxley said that. I didn't know anything about James Madison's head coach at the time.
That's fair.
All right. Do I have more? Actually, I do have some more. I know that Bobby Petrino and Sam Pittman, they deserve a pat on the back for the production that they've gotten from Taylon Green. He is a top 30 passer as far as yardage and the fourth leading rusher as far as QBs go. The 11th leading scorer in points per game, averaging over 32 points per game, depending on your scoring. I mean, this is what we thought was possible at Boise State. You know, after that redshirt freshman season where he ended in the Mountain West championship game against Jake Hayner in Fresno State, we thought like this type of production was possible. I don't know if he was injured last year or what. I mean, they tried to make him a pure passer. Bobby Petrino, as expected, is using him the way we wanted to see him used. I made some silly calls in the offseason. You know, I don't know if this Caden Fegan one is going to work out. I had Lenore Sellers ranked as a QB3 overall. I had Noah Fafita ranked way too high, but I touted Taylon Green and Bobby Petrino, given Bobby Petrino's history with a similar style player in Lamar Jackson. I thought that he would know how to use Taylon Green, and he's shown how to use Taylon Green has made Andrew Armstrong relevant. People are picking up Andrew Armstrong off the waiver wire. I have a ton. Speaking of Taylon Green, in the underdog tournaments, we were big advocates for late quarterback. Josh Hoover, Taylon Green, Brendan Sorsby, guys that you could have taken early on. John Mateer. I forgot about John Mateer. Talk about Taylon Green being 11th. John Mateer might be the
he's up
player.
He's up there. Yeah, he's up there.
But there are all of these players that we said you can get these quarterbacks late and they'll score just as well as an Avery Johnson, Dylan Gabriel. Now, if you went early quarterback in those underdog drafts, you took Jalen Milroe, you're fine. But if you took Avery Johnson, if you took Dylan Gabriel, if you took some of these other highly ranked quarterbacks, no, you aren't. It's some of these late guys. And you just got to give Bobby Petrino, Sam Pittman a pat on the back for what they've done with Taylon Green. Now, he's not completing more than 60% of his passes, and their schedule gets a lot tougher here in the SEC conference and FEC conference play. But, I mean, give them credit for what they've done thus far.
Yeah, I actually had Taylon Green as mine, and I switched it to I think Andrew Armstrong is going to be a – what did I put here? Andrew Armstrong might be the best wide receiver in the SEC no one is talking about. Like, he is having a really good season. I think I had on there that Taylon Green would not only continue to be a top fantasy asset this year, but possibly one of the best fantasy assets next year. My biggest fear with him is just that passing is bad. He's really not looked good passing the ball, but his rushing and everything is really kind of elevating his floor. So,
yeah, he's not an accurate passer. Even when he hits receivers, he'll throw behind them and everything. It's just like, man, I wish he was. But yeah. You got another one? You want me to go?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ole Miss. My Ole Miss one. If Jackson Dart continues to produce this way, he's going to be a first-round pick. I mean, he's just gotten better every single year. He currently leads college football in passing yards, has an incredible completion percentage, 8-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Outside of the game,
my God, he's not thrown for less than 377.
Yeah, he's having now. Granted, they played Furman in Middle Tennessee before they played Wake this past weekend. But
is he a better prospect than Matt Corral?
I think so. I love Matt Corral, but Matt Corral was how do I want to describe Matt Corral? Yes, that's fair. I was gonna say like controlled chaos in a way is I think the way Matt Corral kind of played. I think Austin said it was either the last week or this week on Campus Live that like Jackson, he's good at everything. He's not great at anything, but like he has that ability to run as well. Like he brings you rushing upside. I think he delivers a very clean ball. I think he's got very good mechanics. Like I think because he does everything well, if he continues to put up this type of season, like he's gonna end up being a first round pick.
He could also end up in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Yeah. I have not watched. Ole Miss hasn't played anybody, so I haven't watched them. Yeah. But if you're he completed 92% of his passes against Middle Tennessee. He's completing 83% of his passes on the season overall. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Jackson Dart still like probably a number 1 overall pick as far as like if you're just drafted based on swag, quarterback swag.
Oh, 100%.
He's got the visor and the sleeves.
May I point out one other thing with Jackson Dart? Because right now it's trending that way. I said Jackson Dart was going to end up having a better college year than one Caleb Williams. And it may have taken 4 years, maybe, but we're going there. Jackson Dart, fantasy-wise.
Jackson Dart's value has been like
a roller coaster. It's
like
been a roller coaster.
Like a roller coaster. I mean, 2 years ago, you could have gotten Jackson Dart for what? Like when he was competing with remember, was it Spencer Sanders that they brought in?
Yes, yeah. No. First of all, and I'm gonna stick up for my boy Colin Decker here. Colin Decker and myself were saying there ain't no way in hell Spencer Sanders is beating him out. And everybody was like, "Oh, they're not bringing him in for no reason." Yeah, but yeah, I think there's probably a chance you could have picked him up off the waiver wire. Ago.
Right.
Like he was down bad a couple years ago.
After he transferred from USC, that first year at Ole Miss was just like, he's okay, but not. Yeah. Okay. Here is one of mine. Okay. How about this, Matthew? I'm going to give you some credit here. Nico, I want to make sure I say this the right way because I don't want to say that he is. I want to say that I know that Nico Iamaleava is playing like a future number 1 overall pick. Now, Matthew, we did a video this offseason, and I made fun of you for having Nico over Carson Beck, taking the unknown over the known. But when I watch Nico Iamaleava play, I think the thing that stands out the most to me about his game is his versatility. Like he wasn't built that way, in my opinion, coming in as a freshman. But this dude, he was built as like a pocket passing string bean, at least from what I remember. This dude will, first of all, we saw against Iowa that he'll run. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That I thought he was just going to pass. He ran against Iowa in the bowl game last year. He's running this season. Not only is he running, but he's putting his shoulder down and like taking on contact. I didn't think that would be something that a player built that way, that long, narrow frame. By the way, he's put on weight also. He looks thicker. I didn't think that a player like that would play that way. He's good on the move also, going to his left and his right. He's not flat-footed. And like he does a lot of the game manager things that I like. He like he throws the intermediate and short game. He allows running backs to keep running. He doesn't throw it like at their feet. Something that like Avery Johnson is not good in the short and intermediate game. Like people have to reach for passes. Nico Iamaleava will hit you right in the hands if he's throwing a 2-yard whatever, let you run after the play. He'll throw the screens well. He moves in the pocket when he gets pressure. These were all things that I don't feel like he was given enough credit for coming into college. Now, I didn't write up his freshman profile. I didn't watch him for the freshman guide. But versatility would be the thing about Nico Iamaleava. By the way, he can still do the Hendon Hooker stuff, throw the ball deep. He had a great deep pass against North Carolina State. Actually, I think he got hit on that throw going from left to right on the left sideline. But yeah, Nico Iamaleava is playing like in his first year as a starter through 3 weeks. He is playing like someone I would draft number 1 overall.
Yeah, I mean, in the show me and Chris did about what we think we know, I said I think I know that he is the best quarterback in college football, and I stand by that. I think he's looked that way. I mean, we have him as one of the strongest arms in his class, and it's insane to sit there and go back and think about it. The fact that he was like the 5th guy in that class as well. We have him as I was trying to pull up what his I don't have it with me. I was trying to pull up what his his star score, what we have his star score as. We don't have it in there actually for some reason. So his isn't available for some reason, but regardless, I think he can make every throw on the field. He, as I mentioned, with what he does as a rushing quarterback as well, with what he can do with his legs. And then the fact that he was in a Heupel offense, which we want that quarterback in, but then I think he's arguably the best quarterback Heupel's ever had in that offense. So I think already, and like that's one of my Tennessee. What I think I know is, again, just reaffirming that Nico is the best quarterback in the conference. And in my opinion, he's the best quarterback in the country. And that's not even a question, because he can just do things that, if you want to put in the argument, it's Carson Beck and I don't even know who else. Nico can just do things that, in my opinion, nobody else right now can do. And that's why I lean on him being the best. I think he's going to end up being the best this year. And
I would say that there's still another level to unlock where he's just damn explosive and so damn polished. But I mean, I'm thinking about his first year starting to somebody like DJ Uiagalelei's, first year as a starter, or Drew Aller's first year as a starter, or Devin Brown's, first couple of games as a starter. We didn't even get to see Devin Brown for a full season as a starter. Yeah. It's just like, okay, this guy is doing what I would want to. He's making layups and taking some deep 3-pointers, and he's making those too. And you can build on that. You can build on that from season to season. You got any more?
Yeah, I'll go through it real quick. I don't know when. I know it's toward the end of the season, but when Alabama comes to Neyland Stadium, that is going to be a fun game to watch. Jalen Milroe and that offense versus Nico and that Tennessee offense. I have a couple real quick. I'll run through. I don't have one for Mississippi. So Mississippi State, Kentucky were the two. Like I just couldn't find, and Vanderbilt. Auburn, I mean, I know Mike Valerie loves Hank Brown. I thought he actually played fairly well this last week, but I think the 2025 quarterback for Auburn is not currently on their roster. I think they're going. I don't think it's Walker White.
I agree.
I think they're going somewhere else. And I will say, I've been very hard on Jackson Arnold, very critical of his game and everything. I've said I don't think that he was that good of a quarterback over the past couple of shows. I did go back and rewatch the Houston game and then their game against Tulane the other day. And what I will say is, I don't think we really know what Jackson Arnold is just yet because of how bad that offensive line is. So I don't want to give him like a off year or whatever you want to say, because like he hasn't played great, but that offensive line is terrible. And I think Tennessee is going to eat them alive. Is going to eat him alive this week.
Are they playing Tennessee this week?
They are, yeah. Man, and that defensive line for Tennessee is good. But that Oklahoma's offensive line is so bad, I don't think we should judge Arnold too harshly just yet.
You mentioned Auburn. Auburn has played 3 quarterbacks this year. Not one of them is named Walker White. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, his comp is Will Levis. Will Levis didn't really play at Penn State before he transferred to Kentucky.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, what was it in Austin CF 25 Dynasty League? Walker White transferred, I think, to North Texas and almost won the Heisman. Texas? So, hey, I think that's what it was. I can't remember.
How good would Walker White be at Michigan? He would be he can do the things that Alex Orji does. There's so many quarterbacks that would be better than Warren and Orji.
I don't think Walker White's that good of I don't think he's a better athlete than Alex Orji, but he's a better passer.
No, he's not a better athlete. He can run at that side. He can run like Will Levis.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not a freak athlete.
I mean, I think he'd be fine there, but I think the biggest thing that's going to hurt, the only reason I liked him going to Auburn was because he had, Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman. He had those wide receivers like Cam Coleman. You throw it in the area code, and Cam Coleman's going to go get it, which is what I thought was going to, because Walker White's accuracy throughout his entire high school career was horrible. So that's the only reason I liked him. But if he transfers, I don't know.
I think both Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman have broken their year 1-0, at least 1 year 1-0 threshold on the season already. Well, we should spend a show on that. We should spend a show on the year 1-0 theory and go back classes for all of these people that say, "Oh no, go pick up Brandon Ennis because blah 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 blah." We'll see how, or Jerry on Dickey or whomever. Okay, are you ready to do this draft?
Yeah, let's do it.
we really need to make like the lower thirds for the YouTube production because it just makes everything look cleaner. We could have had picks on the low bottom screen, but I don't know. You want the first pick or you want me to have the first pick?
Oh, sure. I mean, I take the first pick. I'm going Jeremiah Smith. I mean, it's a pretty easy pick for me. I was looking this up earlier today because I'm going to record a show tomorrow about just college football stuff. Did you know that Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams are the only two freshman wide receivers in yards per route run in all of college football? Both are in the top 10. They're having amazing seasons. Jeremiah Smith and obviously Ryan Williams are both like in the top 15 for the most part of like everything wide receiver category wise. I think that, Jeremiah Smith has already proven that he's an incredible player. I like some of the quarterbacks. Austin's in the chat saying Arch Manning QB1. With where I think I see some of the quarterbacks that I think could go in this draft, I'm taking an absolute, I think, just locked in first round pick in Jeremiah Smith. So he would be my number one pick overall.
Yeah, I feel like the draft starts at pick 4, to be honest with you, because I think the first 3, I mean, I could write in an envelope. The first 3 picks will be this, and this, and open it. So I'm going to take Ryan Williams here. You took Jeremiah Smith. I'll take Ryan Williams here. I don't think that we need to elaborate on it. But
wait, you said the first 3 picks.
I think the first 3 picks are locked in. Yeah,
I don't.
I do. I know where you're going to go here.
Where am I going? Because I think you're wrong.
I'll write it down on a piece of paper, and then I'll show it to you after.
Tell me you've written it down, and I'll tell you where I'm going.
I'm going to write it down. Hold on.
It's a startup draft, right? I'm not misremembering anything, right? It's a startup draft. Okay.
Yeah, it's a startup draft. Okay. Go ahead. I hold it in my hand. Go ahead.
I'm taking Nico.
Yeah, duh.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go Arch. I thought you were going to say Arch for a minute there because Austin's saying Arch QB1 in the chat.
Nico.
Okay, yeah, Nico.
By the way, those who are listening on podcast, I wrote Nico on a piece of paper, and now I'm showing it to Matthew.
That's easy.
I think that's going to be consensus. That's why I think the draft starts at pick 4. So I'm going to go. I was boarding him. No, I'm just playing. It's actually tough, man. I think. Damn, I do not want to. I said that taking a running back early on was like a fool's errand.
Really? But I would not go running back here.
All right, man. I'm
very surprised.
Let me stay at the wide receiver position. I'm going to take. You took Nico.
Yeah.
I can go quarterback or wide receiver here. I think I'm just going to take Ryan Wingo. I'm going to take Ryan Wingo.
Okay. I'll take Arch Manning at that point. Who's going to be the starting quarterback at Texas? I mean, it was UTSA, folks, and I think if you look at, he made like 2 impressive throws in that game, but most of the time he was throwing to wide open wide receivers. I mean, that Ryan Wingo 70-yard touchdown, Ryan went wide open, folks. But he did have this, 60, 70-yard touchdown run. I think Sark's not going to be afraid to use him that way. Likely is going to be like a really good player for you CFF-wise next year. And then I think at this point, it's probably locked in as a first-round pick. So give me Arch there at 5.
This is a really good exercise because I'm actually struggling here. I think I'm going to take Cam Coleman here at number 6.
Okay.
Auburn wide receiver Cam Coleman.
So this is where I don't know where I want to go, actually. This is where it gets hard for me. So what have we through? That 6 picks right now, so we're on pick 7.
Yeah.
I don't really want a.
So here, while you think about it, I'll just recap. It's only going to give you 15 seconds, but Jeremiah Smith went number 1. The Ohio State wide receiver Ryan Williams, the Alabama wide receiver, went number 2. Quarterback Nico Iamaleava went number 3 to Tennessee. Ryan Ringo, the Texas freshman wide receiver, went number 4. Arch Manning went number 5, and Cam Coleman went number 6.
Man, I think I am going to go. You know what? I actually forgot to mention what I think I know, but I'm going to take him here. This might be like a DJU thing all over again.
You got to. You're going to do exactly what I was about to do.
Lenora Sellers?
Oh, no.
That's what I'm taking. Lenora Sellers.
Oh, no, that's not what I was going to do.
I was really impressed with what I saw out of him in LSU before he got injured. And my thing that I forgot to say about this, like if he could just tweak the passing game a little bit, my take was he will be a top 5 pick when he comes out. I will take him hoping that he continues to improve on that and has a good year this year. So I'll take him there at 7.
There's a part of me that wants to cheat this because now I shouldn't say cheat. You know what? Actually, I'll do this because he's fallen far enough. I'm going to take who's the back at Georgia we just talked about?
Nate Frazier.
I'm going to take Nate Frazier here. Nate Frazier here.
He was the one I was thinking about, but then I was like, I don't want a running back. So what is that? That was 7 or 8?
Yeah, that was 8. This is 9.
Okay, so at pick 9, I think I'm torn between. I'm gonna take Bryant Wesco. I don't know that I love. I don't know that I love him more than TJ Moore, but I think both of them break year 1 zeros. Likely will be the guys for Clemson moving forward. I think there's a realistic shot. Cade Klubnik's probably still their quarterback again next year. But I like the talent, so I'll take Bryant Wesco there. So we're at 10 now. We're only doing 2 rounds, right? Because I feel like
we're going to do 2 rounds. I'm going to no, this is not getting thin. I'm going to take Justice Haynes here at 10. Alabama running back Justice Haynes.
Ooh, where do I want to go? Can I? No, I don't know that I would even take him here anyways. Oh, you know what? I'll take new USC starting quarterback DJ Lagway here at 11. I think that regardless, he's going to transfer out. I think there's a realistic shot he ends up at USC. I know Austin said the chat. There's 0 chance Moss gets benched. We just played this game. I mean, I'm not saying he gets benched. Lincoln Riley could sit him down and be like, hey, it's probably time for you to go to the NFL discussion. But wherever Lagway goes, I've seen enough to know the kid is extremely talented. So I'll take DJ Lagway. Probably should have gone a little bit earlier, but I'll take him here at 11.
And I didn't even think about Lagway. That's a good pick here. So I'm going to take Dylan Royola. You took DJ Lagway. I'll just take Dylan Royola there. He's been playing well. So the first round, that's the first round. We went Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Nico Yamaleva, Ryan Wingo, Arch Manning, Cam Coleman, Lenore Sellers, Nate Frazier, Bryant Wesco, Justice Haynes, DJ Lagway, Dylan Royola to close out the first round. Let's go to the second round, Matthew.
Oh, man. This is probably a little bit of a reach, but we saw him get a little bit more involved this past week. I talked about it last week. I think he's going to get more involved in the offense. He's going to end up having a really good season. I'm taking Texas Tech's wide receiver Micah Hudson. I think he ends up having a decent year here. Pretty decent fall to go from a guy we expect to be a top wide receiver class to a second round pick. But I'll take him here at 2.1.
Okay. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to take Garrett Nussmeier. I think Garrett Nussmeier comes back for one more year, the same way Cam Ward did, and I will take Garrett Nussmeier.
We've only had one running back come off the board, right? Did you take Justice Haynes too?
I took Justice Haynes. Yeah, it's hard. That running back landscape is woo.
Yeah,
it's dry. It's dry.
I'm thinking maybe Taylor Tatum because I think he's actually looked like the best back at Oklahoma, if I'm being honest. But I'm going to go back to the quarterbacks because we all just I just feel crazy because I feel like we've taken way too many quarterbacks. I feel like this is going to surprise some people, but if what I think I know happens, I'm going to take the starting quarterback at Oregon and Dante Moore. What I think I know might happen. I still believe in the talent. Dylan Gabriel hadn't looked good this year, but I think Dante Moore's a much better talent. Wide receiver room should still be good. Good offensive. They should have hopefully a healthy offensive line last year. I think that's what really hurt Gabriel. I will reach for Dante Moore because I think you could probably get him a lot later. But
it is getting hard. Like I could go CFF here. This is not good radio.
Yeah.
How about I'll go TJ Moore. Clemson wide receiver TJ Moore. We'll go Moore's back to back. Dante Moore, TJ Moore.
All right, man. This is just.
Why don't you make it one more? You can do another more.
No, I mean I know
with Oregon. You can go with the Oregon wide receiver.
I know who I want to take. Oh man, you know what? I honestly didn't even think about that. We probably, I think a freshman probably should have gone by now.
I don't think so. I've been looking at the. I think we're good. I think this is the point where I would start considering it. Who?
I will take Bryce Underwood. I think Bryce Underwood should have gone by now. Who starts at LSU next year? Realistically, who starts?
I don't know.
Colin Hurley's horrible. He's not good.
No, he's not horrible. Okay.
Bryce Underwood is a magician. Bryce Underwood should have gone in the first round. I take full blame. Everybody listening to C2C Live, he should have gone over. I probably shouldn't have gone over DJ. He should have gone over Bryant Wesco. I take that back. He should have gone over Bryant Wesco. Probably should have taken DJ Lagway ahead of him, but Bryce Underwood. Steal of the draft already.
I'm going to go back to the well that I know, and I'm going to take Josh Hoover. Yep. I'm going to take Josh Hoover. TCU quarterback Josh Hoover.
All right. So what was that? That's
second round.
Was that 2-4 or 2-5?
That was 2-6. We've gone Micah Hudson, Garrett Nussmeier, Dante Moore, TJ Moore, Bryce Underwood, Josh Hoover. This is 7.
Oh, should have gone over Dante Moore too. Oh man, because I just want to take my guy here.
It's hard. It's hard. We didn't do this beforehand, so on the spot here.
You know what? I think I will. Don't get me wrong. He has been, I think, one of the most exciting and most frustrating players to watch this year. But I think another year in that offense as a starter is going to be even better next year. Give me Aiden Childs.
Oh, okay.
All right. He put up good fantasy points 2 weeks in a row.
It might be time. I think I'm going to take Caden Durham. LSU running back Caden Durham here at the 208.
So at this point, then I will take my freshman wide receiver.
You see how everybody's trying to elongate their words to give themselves more time?
Yeah, because I'm thinking I'm going to take Decorian Moore. I think Oregon room should open up a little bit more next year. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. So I'll take Decorian Moore.
For those who are not paying attention to like freshman recruiting, Decorian Moore, 5'11", 182 pound, 5-star wide receiver, the number 1 wide receiver in the class from Duncanville, Texas. Yeah. His comp, according to Gabe Brooks, and we do like Gabe Brooks's evaluations around here. His comp is Chris Olave. All right. I am going to take. See, I'm sitting here trying to help you out, give you some more context. And
I know who I'm taking because I assume you're not taking the player I want, so I know who I'm taking.
Well, help me make a pick then. Who should I take here?
I mean, when I was looking at this stuff, I don't want a running back. Realistically, I don't love any of the wide receivers left either from the 27 class. I mean, the thing is, the 26 class, like all those guys are still there. Jonte Cook, Carnell Tate, Zachariah Branch, Eugene Wilson, your boy Kevin Concepcion, Deuce Robinson's still there. Quarterbacks, I don't think there's anybody. I mean, unless you think like a Drew Alar goes back. I don't even know if you'd want to take him here. I think he goes back too, but I don't know that you want to take him. So, there is one quarterback that's intriguing to me out of the 27 class here, but I don't think you take him this side. It's DeMond Williams.
You're not going to be able to see enough of DeMond Williams. Nobody's taking DeMond Williams in the second round.
I don't know about that. He played last week.
Okay. How did he look last week?
I haven't watched it. He only threw 6 passes. I haven't watched it yet. I just saw that he got into the game.
There are two running backs I'm thinking of: Darius Taylor at Minnesota and Caden Fegan at Illinois. I don't know if there's a freshman running back worth taking here. When I look at my rankings, I mean, like those are the next guys up. That is crazy how many guys we're going to lose with the 2024 running back class. You know what? How about this? I will take a chance and I'll take David Eziomume at 10. Okay. Did I miss a pick? You took DeCorian Moore and then I took David Eziomume?
Yeah, correct.
Taking Clemson running back David Eziomume.
All right, so I'm sticking with freshman at this point. I'm taking Jamie French, 5-star wide receiver going to Texas. So I think is just going to continue the line that Sark has been kind of putting out of these incredible wide receivers of late. I think you could argue one of the best, if not the best wide receiver actually in this class with how good he is. And then obviously going to Texas, no concerns about him breaking the year 1-0 with how much that room could clear up after this year. So.
Yeah, and, Taven St. Clair is the second-ranked quarterback going to Ohio State next year, but I'm going to take Keelan Russell because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Keelan Russell is more of a dual threat than Taven St. Clair is. And he gets Kalen DeBoer. Yeah. And I mean, at this point, I think Kalen DeBoer is like, we should probably think of Kalen DeBoer right up there with Steve Sarkisian or who are the quarterback whisperers now? Steve Sark.
I mean, people say Ryan Day. I don't know if people say Heupel. I mean, Hooker, Milton, neither one really got the draft cap. I think it's Sark and probably DeBoer would probably be the two. If you want to put Day in there. I mean, I don't.
I'm going to take the freshman Keelan Russell. So here's the second round, and I'll read them. Actually, let me just go through the whole draft. Starting at number 1, Ohio State wide receiver.
Wait, I should have.
That was 12.
I should have the last pick.
That was 12.
I started off with the one pick.
I don't know how we messed up, but that was 12.
No, I guess you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Number 1, Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, Alabama wide receiver Ryan Williams, Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava, Texas wide receiver Ryan Wingo, Texas quarterback Arch Manning. At 6, Auburn wide receiver Cam Coleman, then South Carolina quarterback Lenore Sellers, Georgia running back Nate Frazier, Clemson wide receiver Bryant Wesco, Alabama running back Justice Haynes. At 11, we have no idea where he's going to play, quarterback DJ Lagway. And then at 12, Nebraska quarterback Dylan Royola. And here's the second round at the 201. Texas Tech wide receiver Micah Hudson at the 202. LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Oregon quarterback Dante Moore. Clemson wide receiver TJ Moore. LSU quarterback Bryce Underwood. TCU quarterback Josh Hoover. Michigan State quarterback Aiden Childs. LSU running back Caden Durham. Oregon wide receiver DeCorian Moore. Clemson running back David Eziomume. And Texas wide receiver Jamie French. And then Alabama quarterback Keelan Russell. How do we do?
I like it. I mean, I think Taven Sinclair and, in my opinion, Houston Longstreet and Deuce Knight probably should have been in the conversation somewhere. But I like all those quarterbacks. St. Clair, I mean, you can call this Ohio State bias. I think he's the best passer on Ohio that's not currently on Ohio State's roster, but will be. There's not a quarterback in that room I would take over Taven Sinclair.
We're trying to get this video to 2 million likes, so drop a like on the video, help us get there. And I would like to have a 5-star rate and review that we can read next week because we haven't had one since August, and it was about Mike and Corey's show. No, we need one about Campus2Canton Live. That's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruening, I'm Felix Sharpe. Good night.